everyone, and welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we're doing something that's a little bit out of order because I have been meaning to start the series here on YouTube. I have been currently doing a reading journal series over on Instagram with the full intention of doing a long format version of that to share here for people who are wanting to learn how to make their own reading journal. And unfortunately, I just haven't had it all lined up yet. I've got some of it filmed. I've still got to film another bit for the series to really start. But in the meantime, it's going quite well over on Instagram, and I ended up setting up my 2026 reading journal cover in my new journal for Instagram and promised that I would share the long version of that here on YouTube. And so that is what we're going to do today. And then I will be bringing the rest of the series over onto YouTube at a very close date to now. I'm not sure exactly when. I'm a little bit sick at the moment, so it definitely means my energy levels are lower. So we'll have to see when I can get it up on the channel. But for now, let's look at how my 2026 reading journal cover came together. The first thing that I wanted to focus on making this spread was to make it as easy as possible for people who feel a bit overwhelmed or haven't done something like this before, and just to show how if you have a few supplies, you can make it work very easily. Obviously, like I mentioned before, I'm sick, so I actually filmed this while I was at my poorest and could barely breathe, but I managed to get this all done in one sitting and was really, really happy with how it came together. And so it just shows that you can do these things with low energy levels, and you don't necessarily have to have a great deal of experience to put something together that looks good in your reading journal. Unfortunately, it does mean that you need some supplies, but generally when you get into these types of things, you end up accumulating some supplies. Now, I did go out and buy this decorative paper recently. It's from Park Lane. I will have everything that I use in the description below, and I absolutely loved this particular design here. I was obsessed with it when I looked at it at the store, and it is the one design in the paper pad that meant that I was bringing it home. I was absolutely obsessed. So I really wanted to highlight it a lot in this cover page, and that is why I decided to go with a 2-page spread. I've also chosen to use the awkward paging in the start of the journal. Most of us just stick that first page down and then flip to the first double page where it's got dots on either side. But for some reason, it was sitting quite well in the journal, so I decided that I wasn't going to waste any paper and utilize that first section of the journal, and it worked out really, really well. I also relied heavily on stamping for this, and I did it with the intention of not using a stamp pad, because not everyone will own a stamp pad, but you generally have markers of some sort, and I just wanted to show that you can use markers to stamp anything in. And so I made the little reading journal header with my alphabet stamps. I used a number stamp, like a clear acrylic one, and silicone one. And then I also used my printer to print out the quote that will be going on this page as well on some craft paper. So it was all very low energy. It took me longer to actually plan this out and figure out how I wanted everything to lay and what style of things that I wanted to use, as opposed to actually getting it onto the page. So I just really wanted to highlight that you don't have to have a lot of energy. You can do this on a low energy day. You can do this when you're sick. It's just, yeah, it's easy to do a journal spread if you have some supplies. So onto the page, we are now going to lay everything down. The first thing that I put down was 2 layers of washi tape. I wanted to use this gold lace one and also some writing to sort of highlight the fact that this is a reading journal. And then I used 2 different pieces from the decorative paper pad. This really lovely marbled like purple one with like sprinkles of geode type design in it. It's really pretty. I wanted that underneath that really pretty flower design to give not only a little bit of dimension and layering effect, but also some texture to the page because of the 2 different layers of paper there. And then I didn't want to leave this space too blank on the other side, so that is where the rest of the elements come in. So I'm going to first put down the quote. This is from Book Lovers, and for the year of 2026, I'm not doing a year-long theme like I have been with the fantasy, like heavily designed ideas. I'm simply going to just take 12 different romance books that I've enjoyed and just highlight something from it. For example, I'm going to be using the 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and there's lemons that are the highlight for that. So I'm going to be doing a lemon theme. So something really quite simple as opposed to these really heavy themes that I've been doing recently. And so I decided that I would use a quote from one of my favorite romance novels and make it bookish. So, which was easy because it's book lovers. Now we're going to put the numbers down the right-hand side for 2026. And I really like how this filled in this little space here. I intentionally knew that the paper wouldn't make it all the way to the other side because this is a B5 journal. So filling up that gap with something was important. So that was where that design came into play. And just sticking them down individually as opposed to having them all on one piece of paper made more sense to give a bit of interest to that corner. And then once we've finished with the 2026 labels, I'm going to move on to something that I haven't done in a very long time, but I'm so glad that I used them. They were something that I suggested in my decorative supplies that you may want to get your hands on. And it is these watercolor dots. We're about to start peeling them off the back of their sticker here. They do come in a larger sheet. I just cut away 4 of them. I knew that I really wanted to utilize these. They were a little bit fiddly to put down, but once I got them into the placement that I wanted them in, I really liked how they finished off the page here and just added a soft element of the color palette of purple onto here. I'm really, really happy with these stickers. They are definitely something I'm going to hopefully pick up a lot more because I felt like I haven't used them in forever, but they were so good to add to this page. So simple yet effective. And then once these stickers are down, there's only one thing left to do on the page, and that is to fill this final element of white paper up. I am almost allergic to having too much white space, so here I am thinking about what I want to do. I'm going to first stick down these tiny little reading journal headers. I didn't want this to stand out. I don't normally write the word reading journal on my cover page, but it just felt like I needed to this time around. And just to show how a little bit of simple decoration can add to a page. And then once these are down, I'm going to add a whole bunch of sparkles. This is something that I really enjoy doing to fill up white space. That's very, how to put it, it's very therapeutic to just put them down and yeah, there's no leftover white space that hasn't been filled in. So I'm just going to cut away all the excess paper first before we get into that. And then the page is almost done. So this is basically a walkthrough of what I did. Just shows that it doesn't take a lot of effort to go and put a page like this together. Obviously, like I said at the beginning, if you're going to do things that aren't from scratch, you're going to need supplies. It is just the nature of this, but it's only a few supplies that I've used and I've had everything on hand. I didn't have to necessarily go out and buy anything. Obviously I mentioned I did have this paper pad that I brought recently, but I actually wasn't going to even use it for this cover page. I just fell in love so much with this paper that I knew I had to use it and soon. And what better chance than to put it here in my new reading journal as the first thing that I use and get to see. So I'm really happy about that. And like I said, sparkles fill in any space. So if you ever get worried about having too much white space, get a pen, do some little dashes and make a little sparkle. And it makes everything look so much better. So we're now going to go into the very short close-up video portion. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today. And until we next meet, I hope you have fun reading or journaling, and I will see you in another video very soon and hopefully more on the reading journal series. Bye everyone.